Welcome to the Strategic Project Leader, where we help you leverage strategic project management so you can achieve your goals. Now, here's your host, Fola Alabi.
For the faster in business and beyond. I am your host, Fola Alabi, your business and transformational leadership expert. I use strategic project management, my superpowers, to help driven professionals and entrepreneurs get the needed clarity to execute the right projects the right way, all with ease to go further in business and beyond. I'm super excited today because we're going to be touching on some pieces that are pretty much dear to my heart. We're going to touch projects, program, and portfolio management, and how everything actually connects and aligns to help you become that value add in the organization that drives strategy and helps organizations achieve strategic goals. And even without even going any further, I have a super guest who's going to be talking and diving into all of this. But I need to get my producer in. Let's welcome Jay as we join in on the show this morning. Jay, how are you?
I am very good, my friend. How are you?
I'm excited this morning because we're going to be touching on like so many wonderful stuff, and we're going to be getting questions in, doing some fun stuff. Hopefully, I get to laugh a little bit, as we just get the Saturday going.
There'll be no laughing today.
No laughing? Okay, I'm going to try as much as possible not to laugh or giggle at all. But I need to talk about the guest. We have Micheal. Micheal is not just a PMP or anything. He's got the portfolio management professional designation. He's managed projects, he's managed programs and portfolios. And the beauty about that, he also even has a LinkedIn learning course that talks about program management. We're going to be diving into that. For so many years, he's spent time sharing knowledge. When I looked at his profile as well, I could see stuff around agile management, projects. There's so many pieces that he's going to be bringing in. But the key today is we're going to talk about how we can create strategic values across projects, program, and portfolios. Let's welcome Micheal to the show. Thanks for being here, sir.
Thank you, Fola. I'm very appreciative of the opportunity.
Excited. We're just gonna dive right in, and I want us to kind of touch on that connection. When people hear projects, program, and portfolio, how exactly can we separate them and what makes them unique?
Sure. Yeah, this is a subject that I receive quite often. The first step that we usually have within our career is starting on a project level. And basically, we're dealing with what we call deliverables, and a deliverable is some sort of package, work package that's completed that we might or might not understand what this has to do with the general scheme of things within the company that you're working for, or perhaps that you've been assigned to. And so you go through your career concentrating on these deliverables, but you don't really understand the big picture. So if you're in one of these situations and you are looking to promote yourself in your career, then it's very important to understand the next step. And that would clearly be the programs. And a program is a collection of projects, could be internal, external, but we are concentrating on the value. And I know that's something, Fola, that you talk about quite often, the value that is actually being generated for the company. And so we call it benefits realization. That is the key to program management. And now moving on to the next step, portfolio management, that takes on all of the projects that you have within the organization. And very often we'll be looking at the processes. So it covers everything that is dealing with operations within your company. So let's concentrate on this concept of strategy for the project manager, and how you can actually take these different steps and set them to your advantage, because I think that that's really the secret sauce here, right? That's what we're trying to accomplish. So if you are able to be aware of why you're running this project and how this fits into the general scheme of things, and again concentrating on that concept of value, then it allows you to perform a couple different actions. One, you're much more in alignment with everybody else in the organization. You're not just an order taker, but you're actually looking for the overall best wishes of the company. That would be number one. And once you're able to verbalize that and show that to others, then people will say, hey, well, this person really is on the ball, and perhaps maybe they are ready for higher goals, to higher goals. And so the next logical step would be looking at it from a program perspective, understanding that we have multiple projects. We have the benefits realization, and very often the benefits realization of the program continues way after the projects are finished. In other words, each project manager has finished their projects, and the program manager is still concentrating on that benefit realization, because we know, and this is the big topic within project management, that if we come with deliverables that nobody can use or nobody can deploy, what is the value, I ask you? So this is really the key here: benefits realization after the project's over, and that's where the program manager really brings the value. And then, of course, as mentioned, the portfolio management. We can go into more detail if you like, as far as the definitions, what the roles are, but I think we want to concentrate on the value and the strategy, right?
That's right. And I think it's really important for us to get this. At the first layer, we talked about projects. A project, we know, is a temporary endeavor that creates a specific outcome. It's got resources attached to that. It's got a specific timeline, and you're delivering on a specific actual goal and outcome. Programs actually are different interrelated projects that deliver value. For instance, you could have an IT transformation program where you have like the software side, you've got, the website pieces that has to be done, the technical development. So there are different projects that come together. But when we talk about a portfolio could actually have different projects, programs, even some that are actually not directly related, all tied in to deliver on organization strategic goals. And today we want to see how you as a project manager or program manager can ensure that your project or program is delivering strategic value. So you may be wondering, right? I have a project charter already signed, right? I know what I'm meant to be doing. I've got my resources, I know who my stakeholders are. And, so that's what I need to focus on, quality, deliver on quality, on time. That's great. But what will set you apart from everybody else is how your projects tie in to the strategic value. Mike was exactly right. We want to talk about benefit realization. So what were the goals in the business case at the start of the project or the program that you were looking to achieve? And how exactly is your project helping achieve that? Even when you feel that you have delivered that, when the project is like signed and done and dusted, how are you tracking and how are you ensuring that benefit realization is actually happening? I want to go over to you, Mike. So how exactly can we ensure that as project managers, we tie back to delivering value? What is the first thing you need to look out for?
This has been the one that I think has been the most dysfunctional throughout my entire career, regardless of whether I was working as a project manager or a portfolio manager, or perhaps even just in line management. That the company will have a vision, which will be the reason why we are actually here, and that will stay constant. But when we get to the mission area, where we need to figure out what is our focus right now, that could possibly change. We are in a very dynamic environment, and that means that we might need to change our focus, which for me would be the actual mission per se. And now we get into the strategy part. The strategy part for me is how we actually do it. What are the tools that we have to make the rest take place? So if I always tried to concentrate as a project manager or program manager, portfolio manager, I always try to best understand where's the company right now and what are we trying to accomplish. Because the worst thing you could do, and I've seen this too often, especially in line management, that we will have a change to the strategy, which means that we should be completing different activities, but nobody informed anybody else in the organization. So very possibly you might be sabotaged every single day by your employees because of a missing communication. And so if there would be one focus that I can point out, it would be making sure that you're truly in alignment with all of that of what the organization is trying to accomplish.
You mentioned something really important. Strategy.
Hopefully more than one.
No,
Oh, sorry, no fun here. I apologize.
Exactly. That was like the number one rule, Mike. We don't laugh on the show, have fun
Sorry, I
at all.
apologize.
It's all about value, okay? Okay, right. No, there's so many, great stuff you've actually said. But one piece is you said, strategies right here. We have employees here delivering on projects and programs. And at times, at executive level, decisions are actually being made to say, for instance, we know that in the next 6 months, we've got a drive to increase maybe revenue by 50%, whatever that is. And in doing that, we're going to kick off 5 key projects. And the reason why we need to do that, we need to ensure that we get to market probably on 3 of these products in 5 months, because our competition, will be getting in 7 months. However, that actual information may not even be passed to the project manager, program manager. They just feel that I've got a project that I know I need to deliver on, and I know that I've got 5 months to do it, and that's it. There's a disconnect to even understand the reasons behind why that timeline has been set, right? The PM might not even be aware that this is absolutely critical, because time to market for us is going to be that competitive advantage that we are trying to set. And the PM is in a vacuum, doing his own thing, and they feel, yes, I'm talking to my stakeholders, I'm on track and all that. However, they may just be like a slip, maybe the delivery issue or something, and then they feel, oh yes, I'm just going to just miss my go live date by 3 weeks. That throws off the entire project, right? Not knowing that absolutely critical. And when they go back, the PM's going to be like, goodness, that was a success. Why not? I was able to communicate what was going on. I made sure the stakeholders were aware, but that absolutely critical piece where strategically the organization had to go to market with that product in 5 months. So how can organizations and the project space, the PMO and everything, be fully connected to understand where the organization is actually going and how we as project leaders can help them achieve those strategic goals and do that right?
Well, inevitably, we're only concentrating for the most part on what we're trying to accomplish, and we don't really look and see what's taking place left or right. Furthermore, we're not getting pertinent information to understand that maybe what our strategy was, or my strategy tied to my project was something on Monday that changes on Tuesday or Wednesday, but I'm never really given that information. So again, getting back to that point of lack of information. But I really liked your example, because that befits reality. We need to be very agile, and that means that we need to be able to make changes at all the levels within the organization very quickly. So that means we need to have the program managers and the portfolio managers that are almost acting like the conductors of an orchestra, that understand the pace and the tenor of what we're trying to accomplish, and are able to disseminate that information throughout the entire organization to make sure that they understand what needs to be done. And it's very typical of a team. If the players don't know what they're supposed to do, then we shouldn't be surprised if they're doing everything possible, but not what they're supposed to be.
Oh, you said that right. Is like, I remember having this conversation with the program manager as well, and who said, I looked at my programs and I have all the streams on track, and I've been communicating with my stakeholders when it comes to changing and having to pivot. We've had to pivot a number of times. However, when I sat and I said, looking at it from an overall portfolio perspective, do you know that your project is actually not green? It's actually red at this point, because when we look at the technical details of what the product is actually going to produce at the end of it, a key requirement that a business has actually said that they definitely want is actually missing. And they were like, oh, when I had a conversation with the team, it felt like they were okay with the changes. But I'm like, did you really identify all the key players? And did you realize that that particular requirement was like a must have in the business case? And the program manager was like, yes, I've got my charter, right? I didn't really go in and read the business case because that happened before me. Again, another ding when it comes to driving strategy, right? Organizations, again, come in and they just get this great PMs, great program managers right there. After business decisions have actually been made, the benefit realization, we talk about the payback period, all these things have been analyzed. But project managers and program managers don't actually go back to find out what exactly was the Bible. I call it the Bible, right? The end all be all that drives this project, the why behind the project. And so when it comes to change on the shift, I know you have a training on program management as well on LinkedIn, which is actually great as well. How do we empower these leaders to become way better and way proactive so they can ensure that they become the value add? Because that is a missing piece. Getting your PMP is one and getting your Prince 2 is another thing, right? But being that person who understands the bigger picture sets them apart. So what strategies can you actually share to help project managers and program managers get there?
Well, I think there are a number of things that you need to have in place. Let's start maybe from the organizational perspective. If you
Yeah.
do not have a learning organization where people are willing to take the time to understand things that go far and beyond their actual job description and understand how all these pieces of the puzzle fit into something much larger, then obviously we're not going to make much progress. That being said, not all of us are that fortunate to be bestowed in working for a learning organization. But the key is truly empowerment. Either you feel empowered to go ahead and strive towards that, or you don't. So I personally believe that the individual has all kinds of possibilities within their own control that allows them to go ahead and make that progress change simply because they're determined and they have enough faith in themselves. So to answer, that was a long answer, apologies for that, but I truly believe the key is by the individual and to what degree do they have enough confidence in themselves to feel empowered.
I think we need to bring back, there was a question that just came up. Jay, if you could have that back up as well so we could actually tackle that. But Liz says, nowadays, all is actually technical. My problem is making changes quickly so that it sometimes feels as though we use this approach instead of thinking and instead of committing to a choice. Yeah, making agile decisions and being able to decide on pieces actually fast. I believe that there's so many factors that come into play. Making decisions fast is one thing, making the right decisions fast. And we talk about like data, right? Are we able to give senior leadership the right information at the right time so they can actually make these decisions? Because it's very, very easy to say that, there's a change coming and then we want to pivot in this particular way. How are you as a project manager or a program manager ensuring that you have that information always readily available so that it's actually more a data-driven decision? How can you actually give some more insight to that, Mike?
Yeah, I think particularly in the case of with Balish, I'm a little bit familiar with this case, and he's working as a contractor for the most part. And so the real problem is that he's not given access to any of this information that we've been talking about. There is no visibility as to what the strategy is of the organization. Balish is on the ball, and he could actually bring all kinds of added value if they were able to provide him with enough trust. And so the key here is, how is your relationship with your suppliers? If you have no trust in your suppliers, if you do not look at them as being subject matter experts, if you do not rely on them not only to get the job done, but they have a whole slew of expertise that you're not tapping into, it's really a disgrace. And so what I need to really focus on right here is this concept that I believe in very strongly. It's called vested outsourcing. And the idea is that you build a relationship with all the stakeholders and make sure that they feel responsible for the total success of what you're trying to accomplish. You do not tell them what to do. You tell them these are our goals and expect for them, being the experts, that they are capable of actually going ahead and achieving that without having to be told to do it. And then at the end, make sure that they're included in all the information. Either you have trust in your suppliers or you don't. And I think that's one of the problems that Balish runs across quite often. You can confirm that, Balish, if I got that one right. But I tend to think that one's it. And so it gets even more complicated. It even gets more complicated because we always think that everybody's a full-time employee and that everybody's given all the information. And I'm just taking from my own personal experience being in corporations. That couldn't be farther from the truth. So how do you figure out a way to lead from below so that the people in power are willing to go ahead and give you the necessary information for you to do your job right? And I'm afraid that befits reality.
I know. I always want to be as realistic as possible. We know in the real world, when it comes to projects and executing on that, a lot of organizations kind of see it as a nice to have, in the sense of we get the PM, let him get the job done. When it comes to the bigger picture and the strategy, we're already doing that. But there is a piece where project managers and program managers now have to step up their game to share and show the value of what they bring to the table when they understand all the different parts to it. I see like a connected maze, right? It's a puzzle. For us to achieve this overall goal, my piece definitely connects to that. And it's extremely important because when senior leadership understand that there's something critical that could prevent us from pretty much hitting that $10 billion goal or whatever it is, and you can paint the picture as to how your project ties in, that's the only way. Me, having worked and managed PMOs, I'm talking about multi-million dollar portfolios where we have different projects and programs, I have had to share and show organization of how much PMOs are extremely valuable, not just for reporting, not just to share progress updates, but more seen as a strategy realization office. So that way, when there's a seat at the table and there's a voice where they understand that, yes, to achieve all of this goals and objectives, the project team are the drivers of strategy, because we bring everything into reality. And if we don't understand the whole, piece of the maze, it's not going to be possible. So there's a lot of influencing, like top down up, where they can then see that and showing data to support it. What else can we actually share, when it comes to other information and data, excuse me, please, that PMs can begin to realign themselves from that perspective and start being seen as that value. Because I call them, you have to become a strategic project leader, not just a project manager, where you would not just, the triple constraints guy. Yes, I'm going to deliver on time and on quality on budget, but still never deliver any, no benefits at the end of it. But positioning yourself as the leader that drives strategy. How can we do this together?
Yeah, I think thank you very much for that explanation, because I think it's very often the way that you portray yourself and to what degree you have a true insight as to the real needs of your stakeholders and upper management. These are key, because if you are able to deliver those things that allow upper management to look better, then the chances of you being looked upon as being a trusted advisor within this whole scheme of things has become much greater. And of course, we're back to this question of confidence. Even if the organization does not necessarily believe that project management is important as perhaps you and I do, and of course our audience, that doesn't mean that you don't take the attitude of being a professional and making sure that everybody understands this is important, and spill out all those things, Fola, that you talked about. Maybe they're not aware, and so they're hearing this for the first time. I wouldn't be surprised. I've seen that often enough.
Sir, I have a question for you.
Sure.
We talk about education a lot, and we talk about the formal and informal education.
Mhm.
And it's my understanding you have a course you put together. Can you tell us a little bit about that course?
Sure, of course. Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity, Jay. The course is called Learning Program Management, and the idea is because it's a bit of a black box for a number of people. We understand project management, not all of us, but a lot of us do. But we're still very very much in the infancy tied to these other roles, that being program management, and of course don't even talk about portfolio management. And so the idea of this course was to give people a better idea of what this position is. It's a position that's actually been fulfilled in a number of companies for numerous years, but still is very foreign to a lot of people. So the first point was to make sure that there's certain visibility, understand the importance of this position. I mentioned in the beginning benefits realization. So if we're able to bring benefits to the company, going beyond the question of deliverables, bringing benefits to the organization so they can and they can be quantified, then it's understood how important this position actually is in all these projects that you have. And you act as a coordinator, you act as like a conductor. It's very possible that you will have different projects at the end of your program simply because the strategy is going to change. So if the strategy changes, that means that the deliverables have to change. That should be a no-brainer, but unfortunately we don't see that too often. We are, and this again, I'm going back to my career, too much caught in sunk cost fallacy, that we've spent so much money on projects, we can't stop them now, which is anything but strategic. And I think you would agree with me on that one, Fola. So we need to figure out ways to say that was yesterday, but we've changed our strategy. We need to come up with new deliverables, and that means we need to have new projects. So to close the loop on your question, Jay, the beginning, middle, and end is all tied to benefits realization. As I mentioned earlier, even after the projects are done, the program will still be alive, because if operations are not bringing those benefits, then the program didn't do their job. And that's pretty much what the course is about.
Okay, can you take that a step further and tell us how the course is delivered?
The course is delivered in various sections, very short passages. 3 to 5 minutes are usually the length of the videos, and we go through the definition of portfolio management on a very high level, looking at the comparison where we started our conversation today. I come up with numerous examples from my career of how I was able to perform different actions, different focuses of program management, and as mentioned, it was intended to be an introduction. We needed to make sure that there was something that people could follow, even if they were not very well versed on the subject, and we've had a very strong following. We have over 150,000 students,
Wow.
and over 5 years. And we just did a refresh a couple of weeks ago. This was back in July. And I'm very, very, very happy about how everything turned out. Thank you very much for the question, Jay.
No, my pleasure. And can you tell us one more piece on that, and how long
Sure.
is the program if you go to start?
It's 51 minutes, so we tried to keep short and sweet. And so that means that it's packed with a lot of information. But of course, the beauty of the courses on LinkedIn Learning is that if indeed you needed to look at it one more time, you could always go back. And very often, here I'm speaking from personal experience, I will watch something and I will go, yeah. And then it will sink in the back of my head. And then I really start thinking about it, because it changed my perspective. And then I'll go ahead and watch it again. I'll watch it a third time, simply because I didn't get it right the first time. So when I say 51 minutes, that doesn't mean that is not action-packed 51 minutes. And quite often you need to visit the material a few times, just simply because we are not capable of actually absorbing all the information.
Absolutely, I know. The piece I want us to drag, and you talked about learning, I know you've got a course. How can we leverage the power of learning to get senior leadership to begin to understand where we want them to get to? So let me just break down a little bit because I know that everyone's learning and they're learning different things, right? But how can we bring this kind of information like in front of them so they can begin to also understand why it's extremely important to take a particular position, and why we need them fully on board and immersed in this overall project experience.
Perhaps if I can use our exchange today as an example, I think it's a very good one where we are talking about different situations that we have both been in, knowing full well that inevitably there's always going to be somebody who will have either been in that situation and thinks, oh my God, I was not alone, or very possibly I could never imagine that happening. And so just through pure examples, we have the ability to bring across all kinds of information. Do we have people within the organization who could perform this role, and they're not necessarily performing this role today? I can think of so many times within my career where there were people, and I'm not talking about myself, but I'm talking about others, go-to people within the organization who have a wealth of information. But unfortunately, there was no importance put through the organization on sharing that information with others. And so I think the first step has to be that people feel that they can share information, because unfortunately I've been in companies where they felt that information is power, and we know exactly where that leads to.
Oh,
So yeah, just lead a lot, being able to go ahead and share information, and then the second part is to show within the organization that learning is encouraged, and I think there has to be some sort of incentive, and that can look, doesn't necessarily have to be an external motivator. It could be an internal motivator for people to strive for their knowledge, different knowledge. And I think whatever they learn, they bring into the organization. They don't keep it a secret. So the whole organization profits, even if it might not necessarily be tied to the here and now. We keep thinking transactionally. We need to think much broader than that.
I think oh my goodness, that just means that it's
That means
time
we're up.
for
Oh gosh.
no, it's time for project lifestyle. How can
Okay.
we apply this in our personal life? So when it comes to strategic value, which is what we've been trying to drive for the whole of today, is we think about project managers and program managers. How can we deliver and achieve something even bigger and better? And we think about this even in our personal life. You feel that I am one piece in the puzzle in my household. You have a spouse, you've got kids, but how strategic are you actually thinking? How are you ensuring that every single thing you do creates uh, a bigger effect? That's more like the North Star, where you're trying to guide yourself towards something big. What are you doing today? Mike has actually shared a piece about that, the learning idea, where you always focus on learning and you are positioning yourself as the one who actually can share, who can bring value. And how do you do that with your spouse at home? And how do you bring that to your kids? How are you ensuring that everything you actually do is one that ties back to bringing bigger value? And so, are you making decisions in a vacuum? Or are you bringing your partner into play? Or are you ensuring that your children understand why you're driving a particular goal? And I'll give myself as an example. As a family, we've got strategic goals that we want to achieve. And me being just one stakeholder in the picture, I share my ideas with my partner to say, for instance, in order for us to get this done by the end of the year, this is a piece I'm actually going to take. And I believe by doing this, it's going to create a bigger impact for us. So I'm constantly communicating. I'm ensuring that I get feedback as well from my partner. I ensure that my husband understands what I'm doing and the part I actually play. He communicates back, and even the kids are brought into the picture. And above everything is in my decision making, I validate to ensure that every step I take creates a bigger effect. Maybe not for something that I can achieve now, but something that the family can actually get done 5, even 10 years from now. So it creates something even bigger and better. So that's my challenge for everyone listening today, is to ensure that in everything you do, the steps you take at home, the steps you take at work, it's one that helps position you as a unique value add that creates strategic value. We can go over and over with this, but there's just so much to talk about. Mike, I'm super excited for having you today. It's been fun. I know we had some few questions, but we've actually already run out of time, and I know we definitely need to bring you back. It's just an half an hour show. Jay, I want to say thank you so much for being here today. Where can people actually find you, Jay?
You can find me over at jfranzi.com.
Thank you, Jay, for doing this. And now we've got the floor for you, Mike. What are the lasting words you want to actually share? What are the key things? And then let people know where they can actually find you. We want to know what are those take homes that people can actually go away with.
I would like to piggyback on that of what you just said, Fola, which I think is extremely important. The word I use is purpose. If I do not know why I'm doing things, then we shouldn't be surprised if we run around not feeling fulfilled. But I loved your description because you really got to the point where everything does have a purpose. Even if you didn't use that word, I truly believe purpose is what drives you. Purpose is truly what drives you. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, as far as yeah, thank you very much, Polish, as well as always. The here you're taking a look at my website, procuro.com. I focus on a number of different domains. Just go ahead and take a look. Please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. And then lastly, of course, as we talked about my course on LinkedIn Learning, if you have a subscription to LinkedIn Learning, then I would be very appreciative if you go ahead and take a look. And please feel free to reach out to me. I love answering questions and helping people.
That's absolutely right. When it comes to answering questions, I remember when I reached out to you, I always say I curate and talk to key leaders who definitely not just talk the talk, but walk the walk. Mike actually walks the talk. Thank you so much for being here. I cannot thank you enough. I know we definitely need to bring you back. It was just half an hour. This was just a little piece of what you can actually get. So make sure you if you want to continue the conversation, let's keep it going on sblpodcast.com. You can find out more about me on folaalabi.com as well. I always want to let you know that you are your life's project manager. Every step you take, by your actions or inactions, you are driving this life's project. For you to achieve your goals and become even better, become strategic, and create the life you actually crave. It takes being intentional and it takes executing right. You've got this. Share your questions. I want to hear from you. And I cannot wait to see you the same time next week, Saturday, 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, where we're going to be sharing more strategies as well with you. Thank you once again, Mike. Thank you, Jen. Thank you to everyone who's actually watched us today. Let us know where we can actually help and support you. And I cannot wait to see you next week. Thank you and bye-bye.